What's up, folks? Welcome into a little Dog Central 100 Sanford crossover action. Our boy Lamar is wrapped up with some youth sports this week, so I got George and I here to do a little draft talk, little portal talk. We were really planning on doing draft talk, but Kristen Miller just hit the portal, so we got to talk about that now.
Mhm.
What's your initial reaction to that news, George?
Hey, the game is the game. You hate to lose a body. You hate to lose potential. Um, but hey, just like you lose them, you get them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If the
for
kid,
sure.
if we want these kids to have agency any other time, it can't be sometime. You know what I mean? And so that's his choice. So he gets to go. I hope he made the right decision because time flies. I've seen people like before the portal, I've seen people make bad decisions, and you know, so I just hope he made the right decision for him and that he gets what he wants out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the interesting thing here is that you've got it seems like FSU and USC are the two teams that I'm hearing most right now, which let's be honest, like those are two teams that have really kind of lived off of other programs doing their defensive line evals for them, and then they kind of come and pick in and have lived out of the transfer portal in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
The USC part is interesting because we know Bear Alexander went there this time last year, right? And he was back in the portal not that long ago, or at least talked about it, and then decided to stay at USC. There's been some articles about USC having some NIL issues in terms of maybe making promises and not delivering on them.
Mhm.
But when Bear was talking about getting back in the portal, like I have on pretty good authority that he reached out to some people in Athens about maybe coming back to Georgia, and I don't think that's something that Georgia really was interested in. But you've got these guys who have been playing with a bunch of other 4 and 5 star type talent on the defensive line, and then they show up at a program like a USC or an FSU where there are other talented players, but it's not the same as having a bunch of guys around you that are like
It's
what
true.
is that? I mean, you played offensive line at a really high level. Like what is that difference in terms of being the guy versus having 4 guys on the defensive
Oh man, they can't key on you. Like it's it's everybody eats. You know what I mean? I remember in Denver, we collected all the high round cast offs from the Cleveland Browns one year. That's Courtney Brown, that's Michael Myers, that's Jaward Warren. We had uh Kennard Lang, like all those guys. And they end up playing really good for us because when you surround them all with talent and they're eating off each other's talent, it's you can produce, you can put up some numbers, and that group almost took us to the Super Bowl. So having talent around you, it's a win-win if you ask me. And so I
line?
don't being the guy is cool if you want that, but I'm telling you, you can really eat if you're around other talented guys.
Well, I mean, yeah, it seems like life's a lot easier on the defensive line when you're not, you know, when someone else is eating up double teams and you get to work in a
Hmm.
one-on-one situation. And we saw
Yeah.
that some with Georgia last year when Jalen Carter left. Like there were some
Mhm.
guys that were maybe more impactful in 2022 than they were in 2023. Um, for Georgia in this scenario, I think this is interesting, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing my diligence if I didn't say I think there was a time where Georgia NIL, maybe didn't have as many resources as they do right now. And especially over the last couple months, like I know that they have raised millions upon millions of dollars for NIL. Uh, Georgia has to pay like 70 blue chip guys instead of 25 or 30 blue chip guys. So they have to spread that money out further. But the situation with Miller, like he put a rap video out on his Instagram a few days ago that said, I think I think the line was,
Can't
I,
sleep thinking about the
I can't sleep
NIL.
at night dreaming about that NIL. Yeah, which I mean, like, go get it, big fella. I respect it,
Go
but
get it,
I
man.
think,
Hey, just make the main thing the main thing. Especially if you have plans for the next level, because there ain't no NIL on the next level. You you know you eat what you kill, and you gotta go get it. And all the fun and games, it's still fun. It's a great life.
sure.
Is what you make it, but you gotta get it. You know what I mean? And they're not
Yeah,
paying you for potential. Not a lot on that level. So you gotta go perform right now still. You still gotta go perform because it's you know, you've hit you've hit free agency before the NFL. You know what I mean? Just like you
yeah.
got there, you can be replaced again.
That's
So
no, that's well said for sure. Yeah,
you really gotta lock in.
yeah, and I think that the situation with Miller and Georgia, like I know that he looks good on G Day, right? Like I don't think
Mhm.
there's any question about that. I think we saw that. You and I were both there. Um,
Mhm.
but I do know that there he's had some injury problems throughout his career. Missed some time both years that he was at Georgia, and then I know that there has been some questions about consistency, and I do wonder from a Georgia standpoint, like because I don't think that this. I think it would be wrong to act like this doesn't hurt you on some level. Like he is a big body, and big bodies don't grow on
Mhm.
trees. But
Yep.
I do also get a little bit of a vibe that if Georgia wanted to, stretch the pocketbook and make him stay and up those NIL dollars, they probably could have done that. And
Yep.
eventually, it seems like a tipping point might have been hit. So uh, it is all part of this new era, and part of that new era is that like you have to manage your roster like a NFL GM. Like you have to, you know, manage how those dollars are getting spent and where they're being spread around. And uh, I think Georgia's, willing to roll the dice here that this isn't going to hurt them as much as maybe overspending on a player at that position might. So it'll be interesting. They brought in Xavier McLeod from South Carolina this offseason, looked good on G Day. I mean, they've got more 300 plus pound defensive linemen than anyone in the SEC. If anyone's built to kind of sustain a loss like this, it's Georgia. But um, what's it like for you as an ex player to kind of I think you seem to feel like the University of Georgia did a lot for you, and like you sat for a long time before you started at Georgia.
Mhm.
What are your feelings just on like kind of this general player movement that we're seeing happen really every 6 months right
Mm, it's just it's a new age, man. It is what it is. I hope the kids are making the right decisions because it's not, you know, the I've seen it, at least during my era, that the grass is not always greener on the other side. You know, um, typically with a school like Georgia, the guys are transferring. They're probably more talented than most. Um, so they're probably gonna do decent wherever they go. You know what I mean? So I don't doubt that they can leave and and succeed somewhere else. But it's just really different. I had to. I sat some. Sometimes I didn't play as much as I thought I should have. I definitely redshirted. Uh, I had my first start my redshirt sophomore year. Played some more. Um, Ended up doing a lot of rotating my last year. It was my last 2 years. That's how they wanted to do it. Me, Stench, and Big Kareem Marshall. We wrote. There's a 3 senior tackle rotation, and and I can't say I enjoyed it that much, but I'm also a team player, and I did what I had to do when I was out there. And in the grand scheme, in the long run, it worked out for me. You know, um, I wasn't I wasn't all SEC, I wasn't all American, I wasn't all anything. And out of that group of tackles, I was the first one taken.
Right.
So it can, it can work have you want to work. And then if you take it a little bit further into the NFL, um, Stench had to sit for a while, and then he ended up playing a lot of football and getting paid a ton of money, a lot more than I did. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is you stick with it and you grind it out, and it can work for you. But you have to put in the work though. Nobody's gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? And like the powers that be that are in charge of making these decisions, they see they want to win. They want to keep their
Right.
jobs. So you'll be able to you know get what you're if whatever your talent says you're supposed to get.
Well, it seems like some players today they have you know a comparison problem of sorts, right? Where maybe they
So
look
thief,
up and
thief
it's
of
like,
joy.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. For sure. It is. It really is. It any arena of life, but like
Mhm,
especially when you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old football players who uh like they're all going to be on a different developmental curve, and some of them come in and they need to lose weight, and some of them need to gain weight, and there's all these dynamics at play. And like you said, kind of keeping the main thing. It doesn't always seem to be the case, and it seems like some of these guys maybe uh, I don't know. Like I think there might be times where they feel like maybe I'm not going to make the NFL, so I do need to maximize my earning potential now in college. Or maybe it's just hey, like I'm going to get as much as I can on both ends. I you know I don't
Well,
know on every case.
on one hand, I understand the latter part. What you're saying that the NFL is not guaranteed. Like that, the amount of people that made the NFL is very, very, very slim.
Right.
Um, it's probably inflated when you go to a place like Georgia because you're gonna have more people make it from your school than 99% of the other schools. You know what I mean? So that's kind of that you're gonna be jaded in somewhat way, um, in some way by going to Georgia. Because yeah, all the talented guys go to the NFL from Georgia. You know what I mean? But in the grand scheme, the NFL is not promised to anybody. So if you're trying to get what you can on the front end, um, before you even get there, get to the NFL, I understand. I totally understand. Um, if you just have to make the right think these things out, make the right decisions, and hopefully it works out with you. But I don't I'm not mad at any kid getting what they can get on the front end, as long as they're done right by. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Well, so on that topic, I think that's a good segue to talk a little bit about Jaden Rashada, who is on campus in Athens right now on an official visit. You know, very highly regarded quarterback prospect who uh, probably, in this NIL era, we know the most details about sort of the NIL bidding war, for lack of a better term, that went on for his services as a recruit.
Mhm.
And he was a guy that Miami, I think, offered him 8.5 million at one point. He committed. Florida, under Billy Napier early in the tenure, needs a big win on the recruiting trail. They come in and say, "Hey, if you commit here, we'll offer you 13.8," and he signs a contract. Like, it wasn't pie in the sky stuff. The kid signed a contract, signed a letter of intent, and then after that, basically Florida comes back and says, "Oh, by the way, we don't have that money," which is a really crappy situation for the kid.
Yeah.
Ends up at Arizona State for a year and plays some there, has a knee injury, so doesn't play more than a few games, but like was named a starter as a true freshman coming out of fall camp and looked good
Mhm.
in limited action. You have him in Athens right now. It certainly feels like this thing is trending towards him coming to Georgia, and it is kind of interesting to have this dichotomy going on the same day that Miller hits the portal for what feels like, at least partially some NIL considerations, because it seems like Rashada is a kid who, maybe his recruiting decision was made based on one factor, and now he's got a chance to do it over. And he's
Mhm.
like, let me come to the place that's about ball. Let me come to the place where I'm going to be surrounded by talent. I'm willing to sit for a year behind Carson Beck and learn and develop. I want to grow into the art of being a quarterback. And I think it's wonderful that, this is kind of the bright side of the portal and some of this stuff to me, is that uh, you do get a chance to make different decisions based on different value judgments, and it seems like for him, especially if this ends up with him ending up at Georgia, uh this really does seem like a strong move of kind of like, hey, I'm gonna go chase development, and I'm gonna chase championships, and uh maybe some of this NIL drama is sort of in the rear view mirror.
Mhm. I, I I think it's a wonderful, should it happen. I think it's a great opportunity for both sides. I think for the Georgia side, you get a kid that's played some football, obviously very talented, being that people were throwing all this money at him. He gets to sit down and learn. I think that's a forgotten like thing with quarterbacks nowadays, especially in the NFL. Like nobody wants to sit, or nobody wants to take a guy and sit him. And we've seen it. We've seen it happen like two times in a row up there in Green Bay. You know, with Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
and then with Love, like two guys in a row playing great football. Because they got to sit down and learn. Football is hard, man. Playing quarterback is the hardest, and him being able to sit down at Georgia on a really good team, you're practicing against the best of the best every day at Georgia, and it's been
Right.
like that forever. I practiced against Marcus Stroud, Richard Seymour, Charles Grant, David Pollock, Demetrius. I keep forgetting Demetrius. Uh, uh, we call him Meatball. Demetric Evans. We got Demetric Evans, Marlos Leroy, Brandon Miller, um, linebackers, Tony Gilbert, Will Witherspoon, Kawika Mitchell, you know, uh, like, Champ Bailey, freaking Kirby Smart. I've played it like
Yeah.
this is who we played against every freaking day at practice. And if you can't get better like that, I don't know what to tell you. And that's what he's going to be doing, because if he's the number two guy, he's going to be playing against those number ones on defense. He's going to get every look. Then I'm sure he's going to sprinkle in some reps with the ones maybe at some point during the season. Yes, I think it's a win-win for both sides. And then with Georgia, you get your guy. Supposedly, he's going to have to battle, of course, between Puglisi and Gunner, and all those guys, assuming that all of them stay. Um, he's gonna have to battle it out next year, but that's a perfect. It's a just a perfect scenario. Perfect scenario.
Yeah. So my I thought it was interesting the reaction to Georgia's interest in Jaden Rashada within the UGA fan base. I think there was some surprise uh, from some people around like the idea of, hey, we've got Gunner. Gunner was, a high 4-star recruit and all of this stuff. Like, what's up with that? My personal opinion on G Day with watching him is that Gunner has some nice tools. I don't think he has as big of an arm as Beck. Probably not as big of an arm as a Rashada
He,
if Rashada
no,
comes.
he doesn't.
Yeah, and one thing that stood out to me going back through that game was it does feel like Gunner is still pretty much a first read thrower right now. Like a lot of his balls go off to the right boundary
Mhm.
in the flat, under 10 yards kind of thing. I think he had one completion over 10 yards that was not on the right third of the field on G Day. And it seems like there's still sort of that tendency where he locks onto that first read for so long that by the time he gets to the second, he either has to throw that ball immediately or he's going to take off and run because the pass rush is getting there. Curious what you see with Stockton, where he is in your mind in his development. Kind of
I
if you
think
had any thoughts about him on G Day.
I don't think Gunner is a natural thrower of the football. I think he I think Gunner I think with Gunner you have to I don't think you would have the same game plan with him as you would Carson. That's just being honest, and for whatever reason that is, you know, um some of Carson's strengths are not Gunner's, and vice versa. Gunner has the legs. He's a thick made, guy. You can do more things with him probably as a runner than you would Carson, and vice versa with Carson's arm and his ability to, you know, read the defense and his deep ball and all that stuff. It's they're different guys, and I think a guy like Carson, you would probably rather that with all the weapons you have than someone that you're limited with. I think you would be kind of limited with Gunnar Stockton right now, as it stands, and you bring a guy um, with the arm that he has and the ability that he has, and you just see where it lands you. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think any quarterback on the roster behind Carson should keep you from bringing in somebody with the talent of Rashada. Not even a shot.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I also think that if when you look at, to your point, when you look at the system and what Georgia's doing right now, what they did with Stetson Bennett, the guys that they are targeting in 2025, 26, just those skill sets. Gunner is a little bit of an outlier in terms of some of the
Yes.
the arm talent that exists around some of these other prospects. And I do have on pretty good authority that like watching what happened to FSU last year when their undefeated season basically, blew up on the launch pad in a way because of a quarterback injury. That I
Yep.
think that was something that Kirby Smart and Georgia's staff noticed. And
Mm,
by the time that they played Florida State in the Orange Bowl, they were down to that third or fourth quarterback, and you saw how that went. It was 63-3, and I know they had a lot of other opt outs, but
mhm,
um, for Georgia, I think you build this Ferrari every year, right? Like you put
mhm.
the nicest pistons in the engine, and you put the finest leather on the seats and all of that stuff, and it would be a shame, I think, in the mind of the people running the program if one part caused the whole machine to blow up. And so I think, when you look at all of the positions, you got to put as much depth in those rooms as you can when you can. And with Rashada, I'm not saying that he's going to come in and win the backup job if he does come to Georgia, but I do think there would be a little bit of game plan continuity there that you might not have with Gunner. If Carson Beck was to be hurt for 3 weeks and you got to go on the road and play Texas with a backup, it feels like, with Rashada, Grant, as long as he's had time to learn everything, that you're probably running basically the same scheme and, the same principles that you are with Beck. With Stockton, I think there's a lot more quarterback run
Mhm.
integrated into all of that. And, I mean, that, look, you played in the NFL long enough probably to play with some backups. I would imagine that is a strain on everyone in the organization if you have to kind of revamp things mid-season to fit a different skill set at quarterback.
Yeah, you want that continuity. You want the continuity for sure. So yeah, I would assume you get a guy that fix that system.
For sure. All right. So talking about the NFL here,
Mhm.
we got the draft coming up tomorrow night. Starting, it looks like Brock Bowers, Amarius Mims are probably your two surefire first round picks. Maybe we see Ladd sneak in there. You were at
Mhm.
Georgia's pro day. I know we talked about it some on 100 Sanford, but just kind of as a refresh, like what are your thoughts on any of those guys? Like if there's any of those guys that really stand out to you.
Well, most of the top guys, I didn't get to see. None of them. Brock
Oh,
and
that's
Mims,
right. They didn't work out. That's
they
right.
didn't work out. But Ladd looked good. You know what I mean? The DBs look good. Um, so those guys are like that. They have really good tape. So I think their futures are cemented. I think most of those guys that we um have a good chance to go, you know, pretty high. I think you got a chance about 2 first rounders. Uh if you want to sneak Ladd in there, I think Ladd has value at the end of the first. I don't think Ladd gets out of the top 40, the top half of the 40s. I don't think he gets out of there. So he's talking about a couple first rounders, second rounders. I don't think I don't think Bullard makes it out of the second round. Uh uh Tyke should be up in there in those, you know, third, fourth, if area. Um uh
What do you
yeah,
think about Tyke? I'm
I think
curious, like to get your on a guy
Tyke,
that plays the run that well as a DB.
you're talking about like guys like Branch that went up there to Detroit, in that similar mold. Um, he's a really good player, man. Like he's one of those guys that you look at on the field once he came back from injury that he didn't like he stayed consistent. His play was so consistent. Like he never dropped down. You never saw like signs of the injury or anything like
Mm,
that. Like
okay.
he stayed consistent or kept elevating. All he was always making plays, and he's tough as nails, man. Man, I saw when I seen him come down and he chucked that offensive guard for
Yeah.
who was it, Florida. Who was it? Who was it? Who did he?
Uh he did it a couple times, but
I'm talking
I,
about.
I want to say maybe against Missouri. He did it at one point
No,
as well.
you talking about a DB coming down, stacking and shedding a lineman, like knocking him to the ground, and with his eyes still up, looking for the play. You know, That's tough football, man. And I promise you, everybody saw that. And that was on tape, buddy. And so I think he's gonna have a good NFL career if he stays, healthy.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting to me. I have been trying to, figure out what to write about ahead of this draft, and beyond just the usual, hey, this is the measurables and this is where this guy's projected. And started working yesterday on a piece about Brock Bowers and sort of
Mhm.
like it's interesting, man, to really sit down and think about where the Georgia fan psyche was and where the program was leading into that 2021 season when he was a true freshman versus
Mhm.
now. You know, uh, Georgia hadn't lost a regular season game in over 1,000 days, man. Like the
Mhm.
last time they lost a regular season game was 2020 Florida in Jacksonville.
Yep.
You've gone 36-0 in the I'm sorry, 39-0 in the regular season since then, and
Mhm.
you've won these national titles, and you have Bowers. He was a central figure in all of this. I guess my question is, where does he go on the Georgia like Mount Rushmore? I know that you've got Herschel, obviously, but is there anyone else that you would even really compare him to besides Walker?
As a pass catcher, you got him, you got AJ, and you got Terrence Edwards. Is you know, the potential was there with George. The sample size very small. Um, but yeah, he's one of those guys. Like he's just my just watching him my he just satisfies all your football cravings. Like in me, and I put on my scout hat, and it's like he's one of those guys you want to go back and watch all the time once your work is done. Like, oh, I'm saying I'm wasting time, here in the office. Let me watch uh this Brock Bowers South Carolina game from 2020, what, 2022, whatever it is. And and he's just really, like, he is, how do I explain it? It's because everything will sound like hyperbole, but he's you don't see,
He's a freak.
I haven't seen that from, definitely, you could say any position, but the tight end position, I haven't seen that in, you know, I don't know, a guy like Vernon Davis
Ever?
maybe used to
Oh yeah, that's a good
air
one.
out,
Yeah.
you know, like he was, what he did on the college level, he was playing with guys. He was really above. He was a pro player, and I still got friends in the NFL, and I asked during his freshman year, I was like, "Am I tripping, or is this guy is he a first round pick right now?" And he was like, "There was like no doubt, he would have went first round." He's like, the Todd Gurley's, Adrian Peterson, those type of freshmen. Like
Yeah. And
he's a first rounder his freshman year.
well, and I think that's the thing that, you hear people complain sometimes about college guys having to wait 3 years to enter the
Yeah.
draft. The reality of the situation is there ain't but a couple
Ain't
guys
but a
in
few.
college at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who the
I don't know how
NFL
you make a
would want.
contingency rule, like, to stretch it a little bit for a few guys, or if can you base it on what the teams say? Can you make it, if 32 teams say this guy is, like, make it hard, you know what I mean? Make it, you know, difficult to achieve. Like 32 teams have to say this guy is ready or something like that. But other than
Yeah.
that, those guys don't come around. Those guys don't come around too often. But when they come around, they are,
You know it.
without like there's no reason Todd Gurley should have played 3 years of college football. There's no reason Adrian Peterson should have
Yeah.
played 3 years of college football. No reason Brock Bowers should have played 3 years of college football. They were ready long before.
So I've got some I got some Brock Bowers stats for you because I know you like some stats sometimes. All right, for his career, so 21, 22, and 23, you got 224 targets with 175 catches. That means he caught the ball about 78% of the times he was targeted.
Mhm,
2,500 career receiving yards, 14 and a half yards a catch, 26 touchdowns. The number that stands out to me the most is his his average yards after the catch per reception over the course of his entire career was 8.5 yards. And we talked about this during the season on 100 Sanford together, but that is basically like, okay, you flip him the ball in the flat on first down, and you're in 2nd and 2 right away. You're in,
yeah,
you're in 2nd and 1.
yeah,
You're in dealer's choice type territory as an OC.
yeah,
Just he's a once in a 40-year type player, and I think
yeah.
you know
He's
you
a
had
yak.
Jacoby. Yeah, and like you had all these other impactful players. Obviously, like Georgia won championships as a team,
Mhm,
but it is pretty fascinating to think like if you're a Georgia fan, you know, in the time leading up to when you first saw Brock Bowers play in a UGA uniform, you were still dealing with 1980 jokes and stuff like that, and now
mhm.
you wake up in a world where it's an accepted fact that you're a fan of the best program in college football. So really, really special player for sure. Uh, with the draft going on, I know that you were drafted, obviously, and then you spent time in front offices. What is this night really about? And like there's so much information that comes out of it. There's so much media. There's so many takes. But as someone who has kind of lived both sides of it, what
Mhm.
is the draft to you?
What is the draft to me? It's a chance on the player side. It's the chance for 200 some odd guys' dream to come true. Even more than that, because if you get a chance to get picked up as a free agent, a college, a CFA, it's a wonderful time. Um, it's a chance to get an amazing start on life, financially, no matter how long you play. Um, it's um, it's a chance to realize your dream, man. NFL football is fun. It's fun. You meet. It's the beginning of a lot. It's the beginning of the rest of your life in a number of ways. What you set up for yourself later. This beginning is probably your first 401k, your first everything, and then for most of all, the most important part that I got from it was the friends that I made. Like my best friends are guys that I played with.
Okay,
These
cool.
the guys that
Yeah.
there's a group of guys that I would trust with any facet of my life. You know what I mean? That I met in the locker room, and we've been close since then. So that's 20 some odd years. We got guys that we can depend on. I have a I have a Broncos chat right now that we talk in every day. A lot of it is, you know, a lot of fun and stuff, memes and different posts and jokes and memories and all that stuff, but also a lot of serious stuff. Hey guys, have you Have you got this checked? Did you know you get this free? Did you know that they'll pay for, your colonoscopy? Or did you know that there's that a lot of information passed throughout these chats between guys that I played with, and very informational, very supportive guys, man, just a whole around group of good guys. I don't think the average person realizes, because you hear a lot of the negative sometimes that's associated with professional athletes. You don't
Mm,
realize that um, the NFL locker room is not a microcosm of society. It's probably better. It's a
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lot of really good, because you got to understand what it takes to get to college, make it into college, survive college, you know, the lifestyle, the 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 what's asked of you, um, what it takes from you, from your home life, how you were raised to make it through that and get into the NFL and to stay in the NFL. It's a lot of really good guys, a lot of really smart guys. A lot is it's it's and it's not sound
It's a
this is not the
it's
sound
outliers.
it's it's a you said it. It's a big group of outliers, big group of exceptional people that are exceptional at least one thing. Most, because of the mentality you have to have, most are exceptional at a number of things. Um, just being life, and good guys is one of them. You know what I mean? So it's the beginning. The draft is beginning of your relationship with all those types of people, and it's been great, man. It's great, and from the uh sports side of it, from the what we call upstairs, from the upstairs part of it, it's the culmination of a lot of work, a lot of guys that put in a lot of work. um I don't think people understand how the front office works. There's college scouts, and they're pro scouts. They live two different lives. Pro scouts, they
Mm.
wake up, they come into the building every day, and they're in there from the start to long after the players are gone. A lot of times, long after the coaches are gone. Um, the GM, the pro scouts are there. I was a pro scout. Um, and me and Rand Carthon with the Titans, Ray Agnew, assistant GM with the Lions. We were the pro
Yeah,
department, and and um uh and then on the other side you had the college guys. These guys are on the road. I don't know what the numbers come out to, but a lot of days out of the year, a lot of the season, away from their families, hitting the road, different hotel, going to these schools, dealing with pricks of coaches. Some of them are better than others. You have to digging for information, getting background, getting body type, getting all this stuff, week after week after week, school after school, and you have a whole region. You have the southeast or the northeast, and you have, or the west, northeast, the Midwest. You have all that by yourself, and it's the culmination of coming together, getting those draft rooms, stacking these boards, and seeing if the guys you like, where they stack up on the board. And it's like, yeah, I know I was right, or at least you hope you're right. That your guy is rated, guy from your area that many people might not know, and he can like, I got a
mm-hmm.
sleeper. You know what I mean? And then they put him up on the board real high. You feeling good about yourself. It's the culmination of all of that, and you get down to a draft. And I can remember my first draft, man. It was like, man, this is what I used to watch on TV. This is crazy.
Right.
Like they used to, when they used to show draft rooms during the draft, it was like, I'm sitting there. My first draft,
Sure.
I was still, quote, kind of an intern. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Because they didn't hire me, start paying me till that May. Like I didn't get a contract till that May. I was working in there trying to get my footing in since like February or March or whatever,
Nice.
something like that. And so I was like, man, wow, this is surreal. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I've experienced football at every level. I've even did fellowships in the NFL was coaching. You know what I mean? And so
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
yeah, I did a fellowship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so I've been in every meeting you can think of. And so
Sure.
it's a culmination of a lot of people's work. Tomorrow and the next few days. Now my draft was 2 days. It's how many days is it? 4 days or something like that.
Three now. Yeah,
Yeah.
3. Um,
Mm,
first round tomorrow, and then I
yeah,
think
they
the
only
second
do
and
one
third
round.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so see, when in my draft, it was like 3 rounds, or 4 rounds, or 3 rounds the first day, and then maybe 4 rounds the next, or whatever.
I
Um,
remember watching it as a kid. I mean, they just did the whole thing, I mean, almost I want to say there was a point where they just did it all at once, basically. And it went on damn near all night. But
mhm,
all right, so put your GM hat on real quick. Last question for you before we wrap up. You have to pick a quarterback tomorrow. Don't, regardless of supporting cast and what's around or any of that stuff. Like you just got to pick one guy who you are most certain in 3 years is going to be a starter, a high level starter in the league. You taking Caleb? You taking Drake May, Jaden Daniels? I don't know that you would go past that, but if you got somebody, I hope not JJ McCarthy. I don't believe in JJ McCarthy personally, but you can take him if you want.
mhm.
Who you
Um,
got?
I don't know a lot about May. I'm gonna be honest, and
Yeah,
that's one thing, and I've said it before. I don't, I don't pretend to know when I don't. I'm not like these internet people
yeah.
who pretend to know everything just based on some clip
Just a
they've seen.
take factory. Yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah.
no, that's not my style. I like to see the tape, but from what I've seen and how the game is played now, uh, Caleb is special. He's special.
Think so?
Yeah, I
Even with
think
all the
he's.
you don't worry about the number of off script kind of plays. You think that's a feature, not a bug, basically. It seems like that's
Um,
kind of the question with him.
I I think it's a feature, and I think it can come in handy nowadays. I think the quarterback you want nowadays, you have to have a little bit of that more so than not. I don't think I think we're starting to have to look at QBs a little bit different than what we
Mm,
did back in the day. And let's be frank about it. A lot of things they like about QBs now were exhibited by black QBs back in the day.
yeah.
And they didn't want
All
it.
the arm angles and all that. I remember. I
Yeah,
mean, I remember watching the draft, and it's like, oh well, the kid, he doesn't have a consistent arm angle, and then Matthew Stafford comes on. It's like, oh, we love how this guy can throw from so
yeah,
many different
yeah.
slots, right?
It's evolved. It's evolved. You got now. It's like we're examining or evaluating QBs differently than we have in the past. And a lot of them are black QBs. And it didn't used to be like that because they weren't the statues that stood back there. And unless you were Byron Leftwich or
Yeah,
someone like
yeah.
that, he was he
Culpepper.
was
Well,
the
Culpepper was
prototype,
mobile.
huh? What's that?
I said Culpepper. Culpepper was
Yeah,
mobile, but
but he was a little mobile. He just had a humongous arm.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and so we look at them different now. So, and and I think that's why JJ is regarded so high,
Mm.
supposedly. and we don't know
He's
that
got a
yet.
gun. I mean, the arm
You know what I
strength
mean?
is there for
He's got an
sure.
arm. He's got an arm. He's fast, and he's won a lot of games. And so that's why he's regarded. But years ago he wouldn't be. I'm telling you now.
Right. Yeah.
He wouldn't be. Those were the outliers. Mark Brunell, Steve Young, those Michael Vick, those were the outliers. Now they are what people want. So that's why I think the off script stuff with Caleb, um, I think that's why, I saw, interview the other day, my guys over there at the pivot, they was asking him like he on purpose, he designed his
I saw
pro day
that.
to to sit in the pocket and just say, like, yeah, we're gonna do it this way, because he hears and it's good that he hears those things that people want to say about him, and he just wants to prove them wrong. I think you know, and I hope he does. He would be my guy. You know, I know a lot of people. And he's dropped in some eyes, but I think a lot of people. I know a lot of football people that like Penix still.
Yeah.
Um, still like Michael Penix, and so
I would take Penix over McCarthy because he has a big arm like McCarthy.
big arm.
And he has mobility outside of the pocket. He has accuracy outside of the pocket. But I think Penix is much more accurate than McCarthy in that kind of intermediate throw range. And we saw him
Penix
rain
makes
deep
some great
balls
throws,
on every.
man.
Yeah.
He's Penix has made some really
Yeah.
nice throws in his career.
I went back
Yeah,
and watched some Drake May, and I do think like there is some special stuff there for sure.
okay.
Like
Yeah.
he delivers some. There's some kind of Caleb plays there. Like I don't think, especially last year, he didn't have very good receivers around him, and so there are some plays where it's like he's scrambling around for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and then he's making an off balance throw, into a tight window across the field or whatever. Like he can do some special stuff. I'm not as
Mhm.
sure, I think Caleb was more consistent. Um, but I really struggle with sleeping on Jaden Daniels. I just like the dude ran
Yeah.
for
That's that's
1,100
that's
yards in the SEC.
that's who I forgot. That's who I forgot. I think he has the potential. I think the ceiling is very high for him.
If he hits, yeah,
I think I think
he's
I
like
think I
Anthony
think
Richardson was in a
yeah.
way.
I think the ceiling is really high for him. I like to see how he gets, how he fits into a system with, he has to read and do all that stuff. He lived off of just pure talent a lot. And so we'll see. But like I said earlier, man, he's what you want nowadays. Like any
Yeah.
guy, any guy, any guy that is a threat on 3rd and 10, like what you live for that. 3rd and 10, everybody's covered, and you still give up a first down. You're gonna pull your hair out on defense. And he is like if he tucks it, he can go. You know,
Yes, I agree.
most of these guys
I
can go.
think
It's the new
they
age
can.
quarterback.
Even Drake May can. He ain't
Yeah.
busting 30,
Mhm.
but he can go get a first down for you.
Yeah.
The thing I struggle with a little bit with both Daniels and Penix, uh, like they are among the top 5 quarterbacks in this class, but both those guys also had 2 wide receivers that are probably among the
Mhm.
top 8 overall receivers in this class. And it's just, at the college level, man, like if you get physically dominant boundary receivers, they can make you look really, really good. Now, both of
Mhm.
them made all these accurate downfield throws. So I don't ding them for it necessarily, but I do just wonder a little bit. It's like how much will some of that translate? But it should be interesting, and no matter what happens in 5 years, everyone will say that they were right, and we all knew this guy was going to hit and this guy was going to bust or whatever. But
Mhm.
it'll be fun to watch. I think for Georgia fans, obviously, Brock Bowers is going to go early. It'd be pretty surprising if he's not the first guy that goes, but really still interested to see where Mims ends up. We've talked about him a lot over the last couple months, but like he's an Avenger physically,
Yeah,
really limited tape, not a ton of career starts. There's those kind of questions that come into play, but I think
listen,
I,
he won't
I wonder
fall.
if it's a Laramie
Won't,
Tunsil kind of
he won't
situation.
he won't fall too far. I can tell you that. I had limited tape myself, and I was I, I don't think I put myself in this. I'm not 6'8". I was a 6'8", 340 built
40.
like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like you can here's the thing. I can tell you if a lineman, and this just comes from me, this is my wheelhouse, of course. So it's not going to be every evaluator, but I can tell you if a lineman has it with very minimal tape. Give me some tape against some good, competition, of course. And I can
Against
tell
Ohio
you,
State in the
yeah, I can
playoff.
tell you
Like,
if a guy has it. Okay,
yeah,
I'm looking to see, does he have the physical tools to make this block, that block, this block, this block, and this block? Can he's can he handle the speed rush? Can he sit down on a bull rush? Can he redirect inside? Can he super important? Can he make the backside cutoff on a run play? Can he
right.
get movement? Can he get movement front side? Does he seem to make the right decisions on blitzers and whatnot? I might not know the play, but I can count the box and all that stuff and tell what to slide. And you can tell a guy's IQ if you know what you're looking for. And so it don't take 50 games, to know if a guy has it. We used to watch, you know, we probably would take current year and the year before, uh, 3 to 4 games each year. So you're looking at maybe 8 games. He's played plenty.
Yeah.
He's played plenty. He's played plenty enough.
I think somebody might, luck into the best tackle in the draft, just because some of those things we were talking about, those things that won't really
He's
matter at all once he's drafted,
long, man. He plays with so much length. Like and we're talking about, you want to protect these quarterbacks, and it's he's just a very hard figure to get around. You know, he's very hard to get around. With these quarterbacks nowadays, like they're out of there. They can throw it in from any platform. They're fast. They can get out of, like, yes, you
Yeah.
want him protecting your quarterback, whether it's right
Well,
or
and I
left.
mean,
I don't believe in favoring one side over the other. You need two good tackles, period. Two equally
and the
good
way he
tackles.
gets the way he gets downfield in the run game and all that, and cleans up
Hmm.
cleans up linebackers and pancakes guys in the open field, is like
Yeah.
it's.
If
I
you
mean, it's
like if you
hilarious to
like
go back
his
and watch. Yeah.
if you like his mental,
What did you say?
if you like his mental, because that factors in everything. If you love him from the neck up, take him. Just take him.
There you go. All right. Well, so I did get a text message while we were talking about this. If you stuck with us this long, I feel like I'll just tell you guys for free. Instead of having to go to the site. Seems like they're our friend Kristen Miller might be staying after all. So I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But seems like he may be one of many Georgia players who recently considered the portal and came back out. Not for sure, but at least it appears on the table. I trust the source. They didn't say he's staying, but it's said that it appears to
Hey,
be up in the air all of a sudden. So,
hey,
um,
listen, it could be a uh, that'd be good for it'd be good for that kid's career. Put it like that. I think.
well, and I think sometimes you got to just do. Indecision is a decision as well, but
Mhm,
sometimes like it's nice to just rip the band-aid off and be resolved. Like if
mhm.
that is what you need to do to all of a sudden be like, okay, I'm here. I'm not going to be thinking about this place. I'm not going to be intrigued by this coach hitting up my phone or whatever saying come to this school or that school. Like if that allows you to be present and where your feet are and potentially focus and become the best version of yourself, then that's a great thing for anybody, right?
Listen, it happens. We just got finished talking about a kid that we thought we was gonna lose, and he ended up staying, and he's had a good career.
Won a
Had him
national
a
title.
couple national championships. Um, about to be a first round pick. Hey, it can work out. No,
That's right.
listen, you got something we want. You know what I mean? Ain't no hard feelings.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a
You are
two-way street.
you are the commodity. Let's not get it twisted. The kids are the commodity. That
That's right.
nobody's nothing without these kids.
We've learned that very much in the last couple of years. George, tell folks where they can come find you on social media and all that good stuff.
George Foster 72 on everything, I believe. Yeah. Yep.
That
George
is
Foster 72
former
on it.
former UGA great, former first round pick, George Foster, 72. George, thank you for your time. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey,
And y'all come check us out on 100 Sanford. If you like the George Graham crossover with Lamar, we missed you, Lamar, if you watch this. And we'll be back at it next week over on 100. So make sure you guys are subscribed over there as well. All right.
all right.
Until then, see y'all later.
For sure.